Let's just get started with one thing that I want to say. For years and years, liberals, NATO Atlanticists, Globe Twitter emoji weirdos, right-wingers, and so many people have called people like myself campist, tanky, un-American, anti-American, America hater, okay? Someone who should be deported, terrorist. For a bunch of different things that I have said over and over again, a bunch of different truths that I have said over and over again, such as economic sanctions on foreign adversaries are oftentimes not very successful and simply are an act of collective punishment that leads to hundreds of thousands of dead every single year, with the hopes that you can starve out the population enough that you destabilize it and then they rise up in arms and try to kill their leadership, right? That's number one. The other thing is that the liberal international rule-based order has always been a fucking lie to extract super profits from the periphery and from the global south in general, while, steadily keeping them down and underdeveloped and overexploited so that you can extract their natural resources and you can utilize them as a cheap substitute that will displace the domestic labor base with a labor force that will work for pennies on the dollar. Now, both of those things are true, and that the entire process that the Western world has designed post-World War II is simply just a lie, right? It's a very cruel, very brutal, and very awful system of violence that through the liberal patina has been able to reinforce itself, justify its existence by making it seem like it's far better than the old school colonial violence that people used to experience, even though I am of the mindset, as many are in my side of the ideological spectrum, that this entire system was a lie, and Vladimir Lenin is vindicated forever. R.I.P. to my goat. So it turns out they're now saying the quiet part out loud, as a matter of fact. Okay? They're saying the quiet part out loud quite frequently. Some are saying it to defend their actions. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Treasury. Okay, we're gonna be talking about the Treasury, where sanctions do come from, right? And the way that the where is this? Scott Bessent, the way that Scott Bessent has talked about how sanctions were very impactful in Iran. Bessent credits maximum pressure sanctions for the Iran protests is work because in December their economy collapsed. We saw a major bank go under. The central bank has started to print money. There was a dollar shortage. They are not able to get imports, and this is why the people took to the streets. This is economic statecraft. No shots fired, and things are moving in a very positive way here. Now, when we say stuff like that, people would say, you're fucking delusional. You're a fucking liar. How dare you say this? You're a piece of shit. Okay? When leftists say things like this, when anti-imperialists say things like this, they would get called regime apologists, right? Matt Petty is correct. And what's so frustrating about it is that it was always true. And every single person that was working at the Treasury Department, working in the government, knew that it was true, and yet the media still presented this absolute lie. Handing out this Quincy Institute apology form, says Alex Jordan, Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft apology form, the Quincy Institute from The Blob, date after the unipolar moment. The Atlantic convinced me that the U.S. isn't an empire. I didn't watch the actual 9/11 wars, which killed 4.5 million people. I miss policing the world. I don't know how global military primacy actually works. Mercury was in retrograde. I was jealous of Henry Kissinger. I will hereby respect anti-interventionism, and I will not talk down on the future first ballot Hall of Famer. So it's undeniable at this point, and that's the beauty of Donald Trump, right? The beauty of Donald Trump is he just says the quiet part out loud. Now, what comes next is what's the most important part of this process, because like this is the same principle behind like people becoming openly racist. On the one hand, it's good because you know who your enemies are. It's good because you know what their true opinions are, right? And you can make a much more convincing argument as to why that person is racist. But it's also bad because a lot of people feel more comfortable being openly racist and saying, no, actually, I do ride with this shit, you know? It's no longer about trying to defend people saying the N-word on freedom of speech grounds, but openly saying the N-word yourself because it's now permissible. And it kind of feels the same way in this situation as well. Naked, brutal, vulgar imperialism in broad daylight is going to both have a lot of naysayers, a lot of people who decide, actually, I don't like this at all. Maybe I was deluded into thinking that the liberal international order was good because I thought, you know, maybe this is going to cause some kind of delicate balance, at least in the Western world, and maybe it was helping uplift the periphery, the global South. Maybe I was deluded into thinking that, and it actually isn't the case. You know, there are some liberal interventionists out there who were maintaining this position. Many of them realized that this was silly. Oh shit, it's effing again. God damn, dude, it's so fucking annoying. There are liberals out there who had deluded themselves into thinking, had established this false notion that liberal interventionism is actually good. Okay? That liberal interventionism is a good thing. Trump has already posted that there's a deal reached for Greenland, by the way. We're going to be talking about that in a brief moment. But I think it's important for people to understand that, like, this is not going away. The amount of power that Donald Trump has over the Western world is not going away at all. Okay? It didn't go away before. It was always there, and it's still going to continue. So just understand what I mean when I say this, right? Trump calls off tariffs on several European countries following productive meeting with NATO Secretary General Rutte. Based on a very productive meeting that I've had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, who once called him daddy, we have formed the framework for a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect February 1st. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and various others, as needed, will be responsible for the negotiations, and they will report directly to me. Thank you for your attention to this matter. You guys are saying taco, but as I said yesterday, as I talked about yesterday, this is the inevitable outcome. They are going to try to find a manageable outcome where Trump feels good about completely controlling Greenland in a Puerto Rico-style situation, a similar framework, and they are going to sell it off. They're going to sell Greenland off in a similar fashion to Puerto Rico, I guess, and that Europe is going to cave and capitulate, as I said. Mark Rutte has no authority to make this deal. It does not matter. It does not matter. They will go and they will fucking tell Denmark and everyone to suck it the fuck up eventually. They will try to design it in a way like Trump already owns Greenland, guys. Trump already owns Greenland. Trump already owns Denmark. Trump owns every NATO country. America owns every NATO country. That's why this was such a ridiculous back and forth that was going on. Okay? They already own all of these countries. If your entire defense system is reliant on American manufactured weapons and you don't have a standing military, you barely have a standing military, and most of your military prowess and your defense comes from America's military, you don't have a nation state. How is this difficult to contend with? How is this difficult to understand? If you don't have a standing military, if you don't have your own domestic manufacturing, if you don't have your own robust security cooperative agreement that does not have the United States of America in its design, you don't have anything. Okay? It's effing again. That's awesome. Just a lot of mini Fs today. Fucking, I hate this so much. I hate this so goddamn much. I hate Los Angeles. I hate this fucking stupid ass country. I hate data centers. I hate my internet service provider. I hate AT&T. God, I hate it with all of my heart. I hate fucking Spectrum. I hate everything, okay? I hate it all. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. But do you want Europe to have its own military? Yes, I do. I want Europe to have its own independence. I want Europe to have its own sovereignty, because I believe that if Europe has its own sovereignty and leverages its relationship with China, for example, they can at the very least cause America to stand down from time to time. Okay? Yes. Like a sovereign Europe, for example, that isn't playing the role of a dog, a servile dog, could have at least punished the United States of America and Israel separately. A sovereign Europe is more malleable to the interests of its own population. When your population rises up and does like general strikes, for example, you're more invested in you're more invested in listening to the demands being made by your own citizens. You are not as big as a servile little piggy that will do everything that America wants, that works specifically at the behest of American empire. Now, does this mean that like, they wouldn't attach themselves to Israel so completely? Maybe they would. They most likely would, right? Because the same capitalist forces, the same interests of empire remain inside of Europe just as it does everywhere else, right? My point is, however, that there is at least there is more opportunity to make change and more pressure points. Okay? There's opportunity to make change and more pressure points that you can lean into. There is a higher response rate. There's a higher response to the democratic process if you're not directly under the thumb of American empire. The entire purpose that NATO has served. Oh my God, did it fucking F again? Majority report raid. Thank you for the stream. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I hope these Fs are not like super disruptive. You're getting DDoS? No, I'm not. It's my fucking. It's my dumbass. Like, I think it's either my router or it's my internet. Okay, I'm not getting DDoSed. Shut the fuck up. That's not how this works, okay? I am going to lose my fucking mind, though. This F is extremely bad, or is it a little f? Or is it a big F? I don't know what's happening. I'm getting like multiple internet disconnections. I work with networks specifically. You should seriously consider investing in your own network stack at home. Something like Unify Router Switch AP with a failover solution can help you there if you need it. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's getting worse and worse. What the fuck? I have a technician coming. Tomorrow. Unbelievable, dude. Unfucking believable. Watch your stream on your end to understand what's happening, brother. You do realize that when my internet goes out, I can't fucking see my own stream, right? Anyway, let's just get started. Trump arrives in Greenland.
Just moments ago in Switzerland. The president now just hours away from addressing a room of European allies amid a bitter standoff over his threats to seize Greenland.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
World leaders have hoped to rein the president in, from French President Emmanuel Macron.
We need more stability in this world, but we do prefer respect to bullies.
To the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, warning of a rupture in the world order.
The middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
America's allies have tried just about everything to get the president to back off. Several European nations sending troops to Greenland. French President Macron inviting Trump to Paris to meet, texting the president, "I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland." But the president says there's no turning back.
We need it for national security and even world security. It's very important.
The president threatening 8 key NATO allies with tariffs if they do not back his plan. The move sending the markets tumbling. European leaders furious.
In politics, as in business, a deal is a deal. And when friends shake hands, it must mean something.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent with this warning to allies.
Sit back. Take a deep breath. Do not retaliate. Do not retaliate.
And even as Greenland has made it clear it is not for sale, the president insisting a deal can be made, despite a century-old agreement that acknowledges Denmark's control of the island.
I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy.
It's not clear what deal the president would be looking to make. Denmark and Greenland say they are not interested in making any sort of deal with the president. And this morning, tensions are only escalating. We are just learning moments ago that France wants to do a NATO military exercise now in Greenland, saying they are ready to contribute, Michael.
All right, Rachel, we know all either they're in Davos, and we know you're going to bring everything that happens to.
Stocks are rallying already after Trump's pose. Dude, it's all fake. It's the fakest it's ever been. It'll never. What the fuck? I can't even. God damn it, dude. I can't even go on fucking Twitter. It's not even loading fucking websites, bro. Holy shit, my internet is so ass. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God.
And to address so many respected business leaders, so many.
Anyway, we got Donald Trump speaking at fucking Davos. I'm losing it, dude. I'm losing it. Okay. It's not even Twitter. It's actually because of it's because of my internet. Torturing and killing unarmed protesters, many children, and cutting off internet is not because of sanctions. While the things you say about sanctions are true when you mostly talk about it, and not the brutality of the Islamic Republic towards its own citizens, end up justifying the Islamic Republic's actions as brutality, tortures. Yeah, totally. That's always what I'm saying. I'm always defending torture as a mechanism of repression. Thank you for deriving what you. Thank you for understanding exactly what my point was. I hate this argument, man. Just shut the fuck up. Just stop with this like bad faith criticism, please. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. You guys are such delusional little babies. Like, no, you want black and white thinking. You want no fucking nuance whatsoever. You don't want America's intervention to be even remotely mentioned here. Okay? Even if America itself flexes its intervention as a major success. Even when America and Americans, like when the Treasury Secretary, who was responsible for all of the fucking sanctions, is sitting there and being like, our sanctions have actually played an incredible role in destabilizing Iran. Okay? You sit there and you go, no, you shouldn't even mention it. When you talk about the sanctions, it makes me feel like you're defending the Islamic Republic. There's never been a fucking point where I've defended the mass suppression, the repression, or the way that they put down protests in the country. Okay? It's so childish. It's so goddamn childish. Donald Trump doesn't even care about American citizens. What makes you think he cares about Iranians? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? There's never been a moment where these guys have even entertained the notion of saving people, okay? You are arguing for a world that does not exist. It's pure fantasy. You want it to be that way. It frustrates me to no end. Both can be true. Sanctions are bad, but IRA is brutal too. I know, but that's what I'm saying. So why are you fucking bringing this up when I'm talking about at least one aspect of it? What do you want me to do? Yeah, I was in a good mood. And then my internet kept cutting out for like 15 different occasions. So now I'm no longer in a good mood.
Yeah. Friends, few enemies, and all of the distinguished guests. It's a who's who, I will say that. I've come to this year's World Economic Forum with truly phenomenal news from America. Yesterday marked the one-year anniversary of my inauguration, and today, after 12 months back in the White House, our economy is booming, growth is exploding, productivity is surging, investment is soaring, incomes are rising, inflation has been defeated, our previously open and dangerous
What is this audio,
border
bro?
is closed and virtually impenetrable. And the United States is in the midst of the fastest and most dramatic economic turnaround in our country's history. Under the Biden administration, America was plagued by the nightmare of stagflation, meaning low growth, and high inflation, a recipe for misery, failure, and decline. But now, after just 1 year of my policies, we're witnessing the exact opposite.
Yeah, totally. America's really popping, dude. The more you say that, the more people believe it, for sure. Just keep repeating it over and over again. If you keep repeating this lie, then people will believe it eventually, right? Here, I'll make it faster.
Virtually.
Wait, better audio?
See very shortly. Our country has never seen before, perhaps no country has ever seen before. Over the past 3 months, core inflation has been just 1.6%. Meanwhile, fourth quarter growth is projected to be 5.4%, far greater than anybody other than myself and a few others had predicted. Since the election.
Yeah. It's great, though. That actually distributes evenly to the average American. Average Americans, according to Howard Butlick, that means every American's pockets are going to grow by 4.5% or 5.4%. Sorry, whatever the number he's presenting here. That's how it works. Okay. Yeah, the GDP, when the GDP goes up, when GDP growth is 5.4%, that means every American made 5.4% more money. That's how it works. Duh.
The stock market has set 52 all-time high records. So that's in 1 year, 52 records, adding $9 trillion in value to retirement accounts, 401ks, and people's savings. People are doing very well. They're very happy with me. Since my inauguration, we've lifted more than 1.2 million people off of food stamps, and after 4 years in which Biden secured less than $1 trillion of new investment in our country. Think of that, $1 trillion, substantially less than that. In 4 years, we've secured commitments for a record-breaking $18 trillion, and we think when the final numbers come out, they'll be closer to $20 trillion of investment. That's never been done by any country at any time, not even close. Just over 1 year ago, under the radical left Democrats, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. In fact, the United States economy is on pace to grow at double the rate that was projected by the IMF just last April. And with my growth and tariff policies.
Yeah, when he talks about people no longer receiving food stamps, just know that that's a rhetorical trick that Republicans love utilizing. They make it harder to access food stamps. They'll kick like hundreds of thousands of people off food stamps, and they'll fucking celebrate it like they got, they got wealthier. That's not the case. Unironically, they got poorer, as a matter of fact, because now this social safety net that they were relying on to feed themselves and their children, they no longer have access to. And then they'll turn around and act as though this is a cause for celebration. It's not. Yeah, you didn't lift people off of food stamps. You threw them off. Exactly. We lifted more than 1.2 million Americans off food stamps in 1 year. I'm not saying you want to justify our actions, but the impact of only focusing on sanctions is that. Please stop with your hyperfixation, okay? I have offered a multifaceted analysis on numerous occasions on the Islamic Republic and its own mechanisms of repression that have obviously caused tremendous discontent among the public. I am obviously still going to maintain the position that sanctions play a major role, okay? Sanctions play a fucking major role, and it is self-admitted by the Treasury Secretary in the process of talking about how sanctions, not just on the Islamic Republic, but like everywhere, on all of our foreign adversaries, sanctions play a major role in destabilizing the economy of our foreign adversaries is established fact, okay? It's established fact, and it's being admitted right now by the fucking Treasury Secretary, and you're over here yelling at me because I'm covering that aspect of it, okay? I'm not going to literally consistently try to couch it in terms that will make you feel a lot better about yourself or about what kind of analysis you're fucking reading into, when I'm not even talking about just Iran. I'm talking about the way that sanctions work in general, okay? Unless you are a sanctions apologist who does believe that starving the Iranian population or starving the Venezuelan population until they scream bloody murder and assassinate their leadership is the most appropriate liberal interventionist mechanism going forward, shut the fuck up, okay? We can have an isolated conversation about sanctions without having to discuss the brutality of the regimes that we are offering sanctions to, because by your very same logic, what you're doing in this circumstance is simply saying, no, don't talk about the sanctions. The sanctions is not the reason why this regime is brutal, that the sanctions play no role in the way that these people fucking live their lives, okay? Two can play that game as well. You are engaging in apologia for sanctions all around the world that lead to, according to the latest Lancet study, an estimated 500,000 deaths a year just on sanctions alone. Okay? Sanctions are a tool of economic warfare, and many people who have correctly pointed this out for years and years have been called tankies, campists, wrong. And this has caused a lot of liberals to basically lean into sanctions as this mechanism of economic warfare without having to feel like they're actually pulling the trigger or playing a role on it. I'm done. I'm done having this conversation. Okay, I'm done. Please stop. Okay.
It should be much higher. I really believe we can be much higher than that. And this is all great news, and it's great for all nations. The USA is the economic engine on the planet, and when America booms, the entire world booms. It's been the history. When it goes bad, it goes bad. You all follow us down, and you follow us up, and we're at a point that I don't believe we've ever been. I never thought we could do it this quickly. My biggest surprise is I thought it would take more than a year, maybe like a year and 1 month. But it's happened very quickly. This afternoon, I want to discuss how we have achieved this economic miracle, how we intend to raise living standards for our citizens to levels never seen before, and perhaps how you too and the places where you come from can do much better by following what we're doing, because certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back.
Yeah, he goes into all of this like sloppulous bullshit, like, oh, Europe is not recognizable anymore because there's so many black and brown people in like European streets. Like, Europe was far better decades ago. And there is some truth to that. But the irony, of course, is that it's far worse now than it was maybe a couple decades ago due to austerity, due to becoming more and more Americanized. But of course, this is a conversation you can't have with fucking neoliberals, especially, that have dominated European politics for, since the 90s. whether you are talking about conservative neoliberals and conservative parties, or even, the supposed left flank neoliberals that have also brought about the same level of crippling austerity measures to their own fucking countries, destroying the social safety nets and significantly reducing the quality of life in many of these European nation states. And that is the real issue here. It's not because there's more brown people. Nobody would give a fuck if there's more brown people or more black people in whichever European country that they're living in, if the public transit structure still exists in the same ways that it did. It's like fast, it's efficient, and you can get on a bus and that you can get to wherever you need to go at a reasonable rate for a reasonable price. You wouldn't worry about what is changing actually. What is changing in my country if you could go to your doctor and get the same healthcare coverage that you got in the past, that your electricity bills were not fucking sky high. Okay, if the cost of rent wasn't going up year over year and becoming unmanageable. So the exact same problems that exist in the United States of America exist in Europe as well. Okay. Europe made the refugees by fucking up their countries, forcing them to move. No, ironically enough, Europe played a secondary role in fucking up those countries, okay? If we're going to be real here, if you're talking about Muslim refugees, the reason why there are a lot of, Muslim refugees that came from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, numerous other countries, is because of U.S. intervention in the region, which Europe played a role in as well. But Europe played a secondary role, a junior partner in the fucking coalition, okay? But of course, the global war on terror did not impact America in the same way that it did Europe, because America is far removed from the violence that it dishes out all around the globe. Oh, no, I'm talking about Africa too. Yeah, I mean, Europe plays a role in that as well, obviously, or historically has played a role in that. But I think most of the people that are mad, they dish out the white supremacist styles of racism towards everyone, like the previous colonial subjects as well. But what they're actually frustrated by is the new wave of refugees and new wave of migrants that have come in, which have predominantly come in from the MENA region. But yes, you're not wrong about that as well. That's the old version of racism. This new meta is leaning into that for sure. This new meta is leaning into that for sure, but it's using the wave of refugees that are coming in from the MENA region in general to make this larger argument. But ultimately, it would not matter. It would not matter at all. It wouldn't matter at all if there were fucking waves of migrants coming into the country, if there were better integration programs for every single person, and they weren't immediately being ghettoized without factoring in what these people could do once they come into the country. Denmark is actually one of the more vicious countries when it comes to ghettoizing Muslim migrants. They literally have ghetto structures straight up. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. They have built-in segregation in Denmark. Anyway, these are some of the darker aspects of European social democracy that a lot of people don't realize. What is this? Open Presence is funding Hasan. Who are they? A call for transparency.
And I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction. In recent decades, it became conventional wisdom in Washington and European capitals that the only way to grow a modern Western economy was through ever-increasing government spending, unchecked mass migration, and endless foreign imports. The consensus was that so-called dirty jobs and heavy industry should be sent elsewhere, that affordable energy should be replaced by the Green New Scam, and that countries could be propped up by importing new and entirely different populations from faraway lands. This was the path that sleepy Joe Biden administration and many other Western governments very foolishly followed, turning their backs on everything that makes nations rich and powerful and strong. And there's so much potential in so many nations. The result was record budget and trade deficits and a growing sovereign deficit driven by the largest wave of mass migration in human history. We've never seen anything like it. Quite frankly, many parts of our world are being destroyed before our very eyes, and the leaders don't even understand what's happening. And the ones that do understand aren't doing anything about it. Virtually all of the so-called experts predicted my plans to end this failed model would trigger a global recession and runaway inflation. But we have proven them wrong. It's actually just the opposite. In 1 year, our agenda has produced a transformation like America has not seen in over 100 years. Instead of closing down energy plants, we're opening them up. Instead of building ineffective, money-losing windmills, we're taking them down and not approving any.
Yeah, so I've briefly touched on this before, but like the anti-climate change propaganda is actually anti-China propaganda. Many things that America does should be read in that same line of thought. Like, I know we're joking, we're saying Don Quixote, but like it's actually more nefarious than that. China obviously is the global manufacturing hub for many things, including batteries and renewable energy grid. The things that are necessary for renewable energies all around the world, from windmills to batteries to solar panels, all this stuff. And they're also on top of that, obviously manufacturing electric vehicles as well. And Howard Butlick basically said this openly yesterday, where it's like, why would we use Chinese style EVs? Like, you're so stupid. We're an oil nation. And yeah, Adam Tooze's face is pretty funny in reaction to this, by the way. Like the other panelist, when he's fucking complaining about it, is hilarious, where once again, oil is a finite resource, okay? It's going to inevitably run out. And not only is it a finite resource, but it's also destroying the fucking planet in the process of burning fossil fuels, right? And America, instead of using all of its brain power, all of its might, all of its money in the appropriate direction to create a more robust infrastructure for renewables, oh my God, did I fucking F again? I'm going to lose my mind. America, instead of America being an important player in the new frontier of energy, America's basically decided we can't do anything about it. China is dominating. China won the next. China is winning the next phase in energy. So we're just going to dial in, and we are going to be, we're going to continue being the dominant force and the petrodollar dominant force in the old guard, in the old ways of in the old energy. All right, Donald Trump is live on CNBC.
About Greenland. So I was going to ask you, did you see any of your European cohorts nodding? But I guess I don't have to ask that now because of the news that it breaks very quickly. Can you go into what you just talked about with the NATO meeting?
Well, we have a concept of a deal. I think it's going to be a very good deal for the United States, also for them. And we're going to work together on something having to do with the Arctic as a whole, but also Greenland. And it has to do with the security, great security, strong security, and other things.
The market, 600 points, getting back a lot of some of the nervousness we had in the last couple of days. The tariffs are off. Nothing happens on February 1st.
No, we took that off because it looks like we have pretty much a concept of a deal.
A deal of ownership, a deal...
Well, it's a little bit complex, but we'll explain
God,
it
looks
down
like
the
shit.
line. But the Secretary General of NATO and I and some other people were talking, and it's the kind of a deal that I wanted to be able to make.
Where does Denmark, did they weigh in on what they want, what they would agree to?
Well, I assume they did because he very much represents, he's a strong leader. Mark Rutte. And he, I assume he's been speaking to them. He's been speaking to all of them.
Are mineral rights involved? Is ownership involved? Did the Golden Dome sway people?
I don't want to say yet, but...
The Golden Dome was very compelling today when you talked about that.
Yeah, the Golden Dome, and they're going to be involved in the Golden Dome, and they're going to be involved in mineral rights, and so are we.
It's not specific enough to know at this point how long this lasts, whether it's...
Forever.
Forever.
It'll be forever.
For Greenland at this point.
Yeah. Forever.
That's staggering.
That's better than a 99-year.
This is what, 2 hours after.
It's better than the Obama deal with the famous Iran nuclear deal with a 9-year deal. No, this is forever. This is a long term.
I mentioned that you could have come over here and just talked about what you wanted to. Before you left, I think you wanted to talk about where the progress that you've made in terms domestically with the economy and everything else in the United States. And you didn't have to talk. I didn't think you had to talk about.
I've decided we're lowering the sanctions on Iran in exchange for denuclearization, which is very different than what Obama did, because he was a black man and I am a white man doing the exact same deal. So it's very different. It's good when I do it. It's bad when he did it. He's Muslim.
Fair to say?
He's not even American, and he's a communist.
Fighting with
NATO.
Fighting with,
you've done so much to try to strengthen NATO. I'm sure you don't want to see the dissolution of something you work.
I'm proud of NATO from the standpoint. Look, I brought them up from 2% to 5% of GDP. They're paying a lot of money. They pay us a lot of money because they buy missiles and they buy a lot of things. Unfortunately, Obama gave them $350 billion for Ukraine, which was just terrible. I mean, the whole thing was terrible. It should have never happened. That's a war that should have never happened. But they paid a lot of money, and I don't know if you know, but I signed a rare earth deal with Ukraine to probably get most of that back, maybe more back than we haven't. But what they did, they were just giving out money like cookies to a child.
I know how much you've done today, so I'm going to bounce from thing to thing. When we talked about geopolitical concerns today, we also mentioned Iran, and I made the point that I never thought that Greenland, that geopolitical events would include an actual shooting war. Iran's a different case. It could be tariffs, which you've already announced for Iran. Could be further action than what we've already seen in Iran. Most people think that you probably prevented the loss of I don't know how many lives for some of the protesters.
Thousands, more than that.
Was that the end of the story, though?
Well, they had one thing specifically that really got me. They were going to hang the old-fashioned hanging. They were going to hang 837 people on Thursday. And I told them, you can't do that.
The old-fashioned way.
It's going to be bad. I don't want to go exactly what I said, but nasty. And they canceled it, hopefully permanently.
But those tariffs are still on, including China. Has China responded to
sanctions?
25% for anyone who does business with Iran, and that will go forward.
Yeah, that's going forward.
That will go forward. There are assets moving into the Gulf, obviously, carriers and other things. So a lot of people are wondering whether that's a prelude to further action.
Well, we hope there's not going to be further action, but, they're shooting people indiscriminately in the streets. And they were going to look, this was a big thing for me, they were going to hang 837, mostly young people.
When you did successfully hit Fordo, you got a lot of grief from the Democrats for doing it. Now, the grief is, you promised to do something in Iran. Now they want you to do, or they're at least finger pointing, say, you said you were going to help the protesters, and now you're not. So you can't win.
Well, we had, of course, again, I mean, if I came up with the cure to cancer, they'd say, why didn't you do it faster?
If you walked on water, you can't swim.
Yeah, they're sick people. They really are. They are, we call it Trump derangement syndrome.
Should we stay tuned in Iran? I guess that's my question.
I guess. I mean, look, it's a rough place. It's a place that we hit very hard with ending the nuclear. They would have had a nuclear weapon long ago. It's actually already they would have had a nuclear weapon probably a month after we hit, had we not hit. And we hit them hard, the B-2 bombers. We just ordered 25 additional B-2 bombers. They were unbelievable. Those things they were totally undetectable. They were undetected. And think of it with no moon, in the dark of night.
Is it normal to breathe this hard just from standing up?
Every single one of those bombs hit its targets and just obliterated the place. So we're going to find out where they are now about what they're going to do with nuclear. They can't do the nuclear. The one thing I've been strong on, they can't do the nuclear. Now, this attack that we did at the time, which is now
fucking
a little bit
so sweaty
older than
and
what happened
so
in
out of
Venezuela
breath
recently, which was equally
doing
as
something
good,
that's
but
and he looks like he's ready to be tipped over.
If they do it,
doing something that most people do every day, like it's a normal part of the process. You just stand up and you speak, and it seems hard.
At some point, they're going to get the idea that they can't do that. They're just not going to be able to do that. Can't let them have it.
Something else that we might find out in the near future is the the replacement for Jay Powell.
It's true.
I just saw the Mr. Hasan, who I have a pretty good relationship with. And you're right.
He's fantastic.
He comes on.
I like actually keeping him where he is. To want to know the truth. I don't want to listen. He's so good on television.
On CNBC would be a great time to give us more.
So good on
Are we down to
television.
2 now? Are we down to? I heard Rick Reeder had a strong.
I'd say we're down to 3, but we're down to 2, and I probably can tell you we're down to maybe 1 in my mind. But
Did
and I
Rick
will say
Reeder
this
impress you in recent?
Very impressive. Yeah, he's been there
Because for a while the betting markets had Warsh in the lead.
Well,
I
Rick
think
is very good. They're all good. You know, all 3 are good. All 3 would be, I think, good. We have a problem with the man that's there now. He's too late. He's always too late, except when it comes to politics for the other side, where he was actually too early.
Another one, a person I know you have a great deal of admiration for is your Treasury Secretary.
Yeah.
He made the point that.
By the way, he only wants to stay where he is. That's one thing.
But
he's fantastic. But Scott only wants to stay where he is.
His point, as a real estate guy, some people say you always want lower rates. But Scott made the point that if you have productivity gains, whether it's from AI or whether it's from Big Beautiful Bill, whatever it is, that you need a Fed chairman that can't get too agitated about a hot GDP number. In other words, we might be at a point where we could run nominal GDP of 8%, or after inflation of 5.5%. But that doesn't mean that it's inflationary and that you need to raise rates. So, have you considered someone that could be like a Greenspan in the 90s?
Well, that's what I want. I mean, right now, if you announce great numbers, the stock market goes down because they say, "Oh, they're going to raise the rate, they're going to kill it." Which really stops you from having any great runs, and we want to have a great run. So we're going to be at 5.5 or something. They're predicting. I don't know. It's much higher than they thought. But let's say we're at 5.5. We could be at 10, or we could be at 12. We could be at 15. But immediately when they announce good numbers,
fake.
now in the old days, you're too young.
Trump is also recognizing that it's fake, and he's basically just saying it's fake. Why don't you fake it in my direction? Why don't you fake it in a way that makes my buddies even more money? Just fucking, it's fake anyway.
Now the stock market crashes every time you have good numbers because they think everyone's going to raise rates.
Yeah.
Growth
Stop raising the rates, lower them so that we can have 50% GDP growth.
So look, we've had tremendous growth, and we have almost no inflation.
Good. Meanwhile, regular people are fucking starving. They can't afford a home. They can't even pay for rent.
Tremendous growth.
Do you, at this point, have plans for what
Come
you
on,
would do?
what you consider hyperinflation, I
Let's say
call
he decides,
more
I'm
money,
not
more
gonna be
money,
pushed around.
bigger
I don't
money,
like the way it
bigger
was
number.
treated.
It's
Whatever
better.
He decides, and what if he decides to stay on the Fed? He doesn't need to leave.
Think about what it would do in terms of GDP growth if an avocado cost $54.
We live
You
with,
gotta buy the avocado. Someone's gonna buy it.
His life won't be very, very happy, I don't think, by doing it. I think he wants to get out. He has not done a good job. He's done a horrible job on buildings. You know, he took.
It's fine. You know how stupid my followers are. They don't even care. They can't purchase things. I tell them everything's going great. The market's doing fine. And they go, yes, Mr. President.
Almost $4 billion.
Yeah.
Average age of new hire 42. Average age of new homeowner 59. This is a good economy. Also, the largest, the largest part of the workforce now is just Zoomers and Millennials, and none of them can get a job. I saw a tweet the other day that was like, I don't know how difficult it is to explain this to someone over the age of 40, but looking for jobs, like putting your resume out there to get a new job, is just the most worthless endeavor that you can engage in. And I think people don't understand it. Like, it's just over. Like the old school ways, the old school method, what millennials used to fucking yell at boomers on, you know, a fucking stern handshake and making eye contact was enough for you to get a fucking job where you would make the current equivalent of $300,000 a year and have a fucking single income family. It's gone, right? And now for the Zoomers and the millennials, it's gotten even worse than that, where the whole like just go and apply to a million jobs, dumbass method does not work at all. You are not going to find a job. It's fucking impossible.
Could prevent someone from being voted on.
But because the people that are running the economy and the people that are running the country are they're 858 years old. They will never understand this. The reality that they grew up in does not exist anymore. And it has only gotten worse. They're so fucking old that they're like, I don't understand. Oh, you must be a fucking loser if you can't find a job. Like, what do you mean? Back in my day, you would do a stern handshake and stare them right in the eyes and you'd get a job and you could own a home. Stop paying for avocado toast and you'll be able to own a home.
And a meeting of the minds. That's something that wasn't on my plate.
Yeah, she was very happy with this phone call. I'll tell you. Now, look,
you won't be having a lot of policy discussions with her, other than.
But credit card companies are getting 28%, 30%. These people don't know they're paying that.
Right. Is it a 1 year?
1 year cap of 10%, and I love it. I know it's sort of like. It sounds like the mayor of New York maybe came up with that, but people are paying. They can't make it. They can't pay 28. Whatever happened to usury, they can't pay 28%. And so I said 1 year. I'd like to see a 1 year cap of 10% with the credit card companies, and they'd understand that. I've had calls from credit card companies, people that are friends of mine actually, and I treat them good. I respect them greatly, but they make a lot of money. They got to give people a break. 28% interest. People go out and they buy something, and if they're a little bit late, they're paying 28%. They end up filing for bankruptcy. So I would like to see that happen, yeah.
So there's, I guess, we're getting toward the end, but there's classic conservatism, there's populism, and I guess there's common sense. Is that how you would describe some of the steps that you make? I mean, there's people that call it statism, or that we're getting too involved with managing the private sector.
I'm conservative, but I think I'm common sense. It's like people say, are you a conservative? I say, yeah, but I'm a common sense person. I mean, I do things that aren't necessarily that conservative sometimes.
Yeah. Like when you want to invade Greenland, it's a real common sense position when 80% of the country says don't do that.
Open borders for everyone so that everybody's prisoners can pour in, where they come in from the Congo, where they come in from all over the world, from Venezuela. And by the way, we picked up 50 million barrels of oil the other day from Venezuela. We're going to sell it at the market price. We're going to give some to Venezuela. We're going to keep some.
They already have, by the way. The Venezuelan leadership under Delcy Rodriguez said that they received their first $300 million dollar check from the American oil sales. They do not know where. It's $500 million worth of oil. America took it, they seized it, and they're, I guess, quote unquote, selling it. I don't know where. And they only gave Venezuela $300 million of the $500 million that they stole. And nobody knows where the remaining $200 million is, by the way. That's the way that we're operating now. It's pure piracy.
It's also aimed at common sense again. But
it's fucking pure piracy. We just stole that oil.
You have these big companies, these big corporations buying up thousands of homes and renting them or doing whatever they do with them. Some of them are flipping them for a big profit.
I'm going to go pick up some money from the bank.
Too much, too many.
Go buy some gold then with that money, because that paper might be worthless.
But we're saying that we don't want that. We want people to be able to buy a home.
Been a long day for you, I know, and energetic, more energetic than I am right now. Thank you for the time.
You're doing just fine.
Thank you for the time, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, that the President of the United States, of course, and our very own Joe Kernan.
Wow, what a productive conversation. Trump just fucking lied about everything once again. And there was very little pushback on this, down to like when he says the economy is doing so well. But of course, it's fucking CNBC, so he's speaking to the right audience when he says, well, the markets are hot. The markets are hot. Look at that. We course corrected in the markets, believe it. Okay, I said I was going to dominate Greenland. I said I was going to take over Greenland with the military. Then I said I'm not going to do that no more. And then the markets are hot, hot, hot. Is this Fox News? No, it's CNBC. Is it lying if you don't know the truth? No, CNBC knows the fucking truth. What do you mean? Everybody knows the truth. When Donald Trump says we're getting $1 trillion, we're getting $15 gorillion in foreign investment coming into the country, and they're opening up factories, you can look around and recognize that that is not happening, okay? But none of it matters, because the entire stock market, which is the only thing that these fucking animals care about on CNBC, it revolves around pure speculation and confidence that Donald Trump won't actually use the nuclear option and destroy global global trade in its entirety, as he has threatened to do so over and over again, multiple times a year in the last year of his second term. So he just keeps going, I'm going to break it. I'm going to molest the money. I'm going to molest the money. And then everybody goes, no, sir, please don't molest the money. Then he turns around and says, I'm not molesting the money as much as I was going to. Isn't that wonderful? And the market goes, oh, thank God. Thank God he's not molesting the money as hard. Yeah, oh my God, it's fucking, yeah, it's a bull market, baby. Let's go. Perma growth. None of it is anchored around like actual fundamentals. It's all fucking speculative. It's all bullshit. It's all nonsensical. It's all Tesla stock. The stock market is all Tesla stock, okay? Money is faker than it has ever been before. Obviously, it's been fake for quite a while, but goddamn, finance capital is so fucking fake, dude. It is just nothing. It's unicorns and fairy dust. Everything is Tesla. When Donald Trump said it's all computer, everything is Tesla, everybody transgender, he was right. It's not in the way that he was using it. Okay? Everything is Tesla. I mean, look at Nvidia. Okay? Look at Nvidia. Look at OpenAI. Look at the major reasons as to why the stock market is up. The GDP is growing. Why is it growing? Because they're exchanging the same like $100 billion over and over again. It's just exchanging hands. Everything NVIDIA. Yeah, little f. I know. I'm effing again. I hate myself. I hate my internet. I hate my life. Why could this? It's just fucking awesome. It's awesome. I love it, dude. It's great. You know, it's not on a permanent F. We're back. We've just disconnected, joined the connection again. It's great. All right. Let's see what he's saying. There's no framework on a future deal on Greenland.
Ownership of Greenland, like you've said you wanted.
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
How long is it, Mr. President?
What?
Have you already spoken to other European leaders?
Yes, I have.
How long would the deal be, Mr. President?
Infinite. There is no time limit. It's forever.
And how would you ratify the deal?
There'll be money involved. It's signed forever.
But you haven't signed anything yet, right?
It's a deal that's forever.
Will there be an effect anyway, Mr. President? Will there be an effect?
People, what happens is people are out there and they're working it right now. They're working the details of the deal, but it's what's called an infinite deal. It's forever.
You talked about being concerned, Mr. President, about Russia trying to come and take over Greenland. If you're worried that Putin would do something like that, why invite him to join your board of peace?
Because we want everybody. We want all nations. We want all nations where people have control, people have power. That way we're never going to have a problem. This is the greatest board ever assembled. And everybody wants to be on it. But, yeah, I have some controversial people on it, but these are people that get the job done. These are people that have tremendous influence. And if I put all babies on the board, there wouldn't be very much. So he was invited. He's accepted. Many people have accepted. I don't know of anybody that hasn't accepted. But it's going to be great. I think the Board of Peace will be the most prestigious board ever, and it's going to get a lot of work done that the United Nations should have done. And we'll work with the United Nations, but the Board of Peace is going to be special. We're going to have peace. It started off with Gaza, the Middle East. We've got peace in the Middle East, tremendous peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible. And that happened by taking out the Iran nuclear threat. Without that, it could have never happened. But the board is going to be, I think, really fantastic. And I think it'll be the most prestigious board of any board ever in world history. Thank you very much.
Tremendous. Bro's making the Andrew Tate War Room. The slave prime minister of Pakistan also joined the piss of board. Yeah, and so did Benjamin Netanyahu. if you want to understand how fucking stupid this like board of peace is, he's just basically re-engineering the United Nations, but this time with even more control, I guess. And you can buy into it. And it's a crock of bullshit. It is totally nonsensical. It is totally ridiculous. The UN already doesn't have any fucking power. And I guess even like Donald Trump wants to build another version of that that's even I guess another version of that is even more captive to American interests. It's awesome.
Instead of empowering bureaucrats, we're firing them, and they're going out and getting jobs in the private sector for 2 and 3 times what they were making in government. So they started off hating me when we fired them, and now they love me. Instead of raising taxes on domestic producers, we're lowering them and raising tariffs on foreign nations to pay for the damage that they've caused. In 12 months, we have removed over 270,000 bureaucrats from the federal payrolls, the largest single-year reduction in government employment since the end of World War II. Nobody thought that was coming, but we had no choice. To make a country great, you can't have all federal jobs. We've cut federal spending by $100 billion and slashed the federal budget deficit by 27% in the single year. It's going to go down quite a bit more from that, driving inflation way down from the record highs of the Biden administration. Every month, they went up and up and up. I promised to cut 10 old regulations for every single new regulation, but instead I've cut actually till this point 129 regulations for every one new regulation approved. So every time they come in with a new regulation, we do at least 10, but so far it's averaging out to 100.
Yeah, I've sped him up because it's an hour and 32 minutes and he's yapping. He's yapping like a motherfucker. Okay?
129, if you can believe it. In July, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. We also provided 100% expensing. That's the one they like. And bonus depreciation for all new equipment and capital investments to help companies expand and shift production to America. They are so in love with that. They build a plant, they're able to deduct it immediately, the whole thing, rather than waiting 38 to 41 years in the old days. This is a miracle taking place. Nobody thought it would ever be done by any country, but it's done by us. It was what made my first term the most successful 4-year term that we've ever had from a financial standpoint. And now we've upped it. This is a 10-year program, not a 1-year program, but you're allowed to deduct everything in 1 year. It used to be 38 to 41 years. With tariffs, we've radically reduced our ballooning trade deficit, which was the largest in world history. We were losing more than $1 trillion every single year, and it was just wasted. It was going to waste. But in 1 year, I slashed our monthly trade deficit by a staggering 77%, and all of this with no inflation, something everyone said could not be done. There were a couple of brilliant people that actually thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing. Now they all think I'm doing the right thing because they can't believe the numbers. American exports are now up by more than $150 billion. Domestic steel production is up by 300,000 tons a month, and it's doubling over the next 4 months. It's doubling and tripling, and we have steel plants being built all over the country. Nobody thought they'd see that. Factory construction is up by 41%, and that number is really going to skyrocket right now because that's during a process that they're putting in to get their approvals, and we've given very, very quick, fast approvals. In the process, we've made historic trade deals with partners covering 40% of all U.S. trade. Some of the greatest companies and countries in the world. We have countries as our partner, too. The European nations, Japan, South Korea. They're our partners. They've gone into massive deals with us, especially on oil and gas. And these agreements raise growth and cause stock markets to boom, not only in the U.S., but virtually every country that came to make a deal because, as you've learned, when the United States goes up, you follow. It's really become a staple. In America, I've stopped the nation-wrecking energy policies that drive up prices while sending jobs and factories to the world's worst polluters. They are indeed polluters. Under sleepy Joe Biden, new domestic oil and gas leases fell by 95%. Think of that. Then they wonder, why was gasoline going up so fast? The gasoline actually topped $5 a gallon, in some places $7 a gallon, and more than 100 major power plants were violently shut down by incompetent people that had no idea what the hell they were doing. Under my leadership, U.S. natural gas production is at an all-time high by far. U.S. oil production is up by 730,000 barrels a day, and last week we picked up 50 million barrels from Venezuela alone. Venezuela has been an amazing place for so many years, but then they went bad with their policies. 20 years ago, it was a great country, and now it's got problems, but we're helping them. And
fuck Hasan. That's what your mom said, Shatter. Got him. And I did. She fucked me. It was awesome. You're getting DDoS by the inshitification of America, our infrastructure and electronic devices? No, I don't know if it's an ISP problem. I think it's probably an issue on my end. It's a port connectivity problem. because I keep getting notified from my router over and over again that like a port keeps disconnecting and then reconnecting in restoring. Now that could be because the ISP is just like not giving enough juice to my internet, or it could be internally like a hardware issue, because we did reset the router last night after the stream. What is this? That's what it is. You didn't want data centers built. This is what happens when you don't have data centers. Yeah. What do you mean? What? Try changing ports. It could be leaked. Wait, what?
Those 50 million barrels, we're going to be splitting up with them, and they'll be making more money than they've made in a long time. Venezuela's going to do fantastically well. We appreciate all of the cooperation we've been giving. We've been giving great cooperation. Once the attack ended, and they said,
you probably have UPnP turned on, which lets applications open ports and suck up bandwidth. Ask HND later to go into your and disable UPnP. I mean, this is a new issue. So I don't know.
Deal.
I'll put it in the mod chat.
But Venezuela's going to make more money in the next 6 months than they've made in the last 20 years. Every major oil company is coming in with us. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing to see. The leadership of the country has been very good. They've been very, very smart. The price of gasoline is now below $2.50 a gallon in many states, $2.30 a gallon in most states. Then we'll soon be averaging less than $2 a gallon. In many places, it's already down even lower, $1.95 a gallon. Numerous states are at $1.99, numbers that nobody has heard for years. Actually, since my last administration, we got it down to around those numbers. I've signed an order directing and approval of many new nuclear reactors. We're going heavy into nuclear. I was not a big fan because I didn't like the risk, the danger, but they have the progress they've made with nuclear is unbelievable, and the safety progress they've made is incredible. We're very much into the world of nuclear energy, and we can have it now at good prices and very, very safe. And we're leading the world in AI by a lot. We're leading China by a lot. I think President Xi respects what we've done, in part because I've allowed these big companies building these massive buildings to build their own electric capacity. They're building their own power plants, which when added up is more than any country anywhere in the world is doing. I read recently an article in the Wall Street Journal that China's creating so much energy, and they are. I got to hand it to them. But we're creating as much or more, and we're letting them do that. I'm very proud of it. It was my idea. I said, you can't create this much energy. We needed more than double the energy currently in the country just to take care of the AI plants. And I said, we can't do that. We have an old grid system. And I came up with the idea, you people are brilliant. You have a lot of money. Let's see what you can do. You can build your own electric generating plants. And they looked at me. They didn't believe me. All of the names that are, I think, in the room right now, if you want to know the truth, they didn't believe it. And I said, no, you can't. They came back 2 weeks and they didn't have the plant. They said, we thought you were kidding. I said, no, not only am I not kidding, you're going to have your approvals within 2 weeks. I always say nuclear will take 3 weeks. But most aren't going that. They're going oil and gas. They're even going coal in some cases. Because of my landslide election victory, the United States avoided the catastrophic energy collapse which befell every European nation that pursued the Green New Scam, perhaps the greatest hoax in history. The Green New Scam, windmills all over the place.
The reason why he just keeps hitting the fucking renewable energy thing is because China is dominating the rare earth mineral procurement extraction. They have a monopoly on it. Okay, they have a monopoly on the production of rare earth minerals, which are necessary materials for all matter of technology, but certainly on renewable energy, on the renewable energy battery technology. China is obviously dominating on the R&D side. China is dominating on the manufacturing side. It's not just like wind turbines. It's not necessarily just wind turbines that he's like fucking complaining about. It's everything, right? Wind turbines, batteries, solar panels. Virtually, hey, what's going on, man? Virtually every single thing that is a necessity, China dominates on. And that's precisely the reason why America's decided no more of this like woke and gay green shit. We're just going full tilt back into, we're redoubling our efforts in on the side of the fossil fuel industry, even though it's fucking destroying the planet. It does not matter. It doesn't matter if we just melt the table. It doesn't matter if we destroy the table. If we're losing the board game, we might as well kill everybody in the process rather than look forward, rather than try to improve mankind, rather than try to improve our carbon footprint, rather than try to focus on the new method of energy. even though we have all of the power. Kaya, get back over there. Instead of, God, everything is so fucked up right now. I'm all over the place. Ugh. Anyway, instead of trying to focus on competing with China and trying to build a robust manufacturing base or even cooperating with China, we are deciding to fight back by focusing entirely on oil and gas. Okay, that's it.
Destroy your land. Destroy your land. Every time that goes around, you lose $1,000. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. Here in Europe, we've seen the fate that the radical left tried to impose on America. They tried very hard. Germany now generates 22% less electricity than it did in 2017. And it's not the current chancellor's fault. He's solving the problem. He's going to do a great job. But what they did before he got there, I guess that's why he got there. And electricity prices are 64% higher. The United Kingdom produces just 1/3 of the total energy from all sources that it did in 1999. Think of that, 1/3. And they're sitting on top of the North Sea, one of the greatest reserves anywhere in the world, but they don't use it. And that's one reason why their energy has reached catastrophically low levels with equally high prices. High prices, very low levels. Think of that, 1/3. And you're sitting on top of the North Sea. And they like to say, well, that's depleted. It's not depleted. It's got 500 years. They haven't even found the oil. The North Sea is incredible. They don't let anybody drill. Environmentally, they don't let them drill. They make it impossible for the oil companies to go. They take 92% of the revenues. So the oil companies say, we can't do it. They came to see me. Is there anything you can do? I want Europe to do great. I want UK to do great. They're sitting on one of the greatest energy sources in the world, and they don't use it. In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing I've noticed is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills, and yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that?
So this is obviously completely incorrect. This might come as a surprise to chatters, but he's once again talking out of his ass. Not only is China the leader in manufacturing renewable energy products, but it's also the leader around the globe in renewable energy infrastructure inside of China. Not only do they have a fuck ton of wind turbines, not windmills, right? But they're also experimenting with new ways of developing wind turbines, like this new Zeppelin thing. I don't know if you guys saw this. What is this? How China won the new nuclear energy race? Brother, we're not going to watch a fucking 19-minute video about how China has won the new nuclear energy race. I know you've been trying to get me to watch this over and over and over again for like the past month or so since it came out. But it's completely ridiculous. Photos capture the breathtaking scale of China's wind and solar build out. This is a major wind farm, but it's not just windmills either. It's not just wind turbines either. They're also experimenting with new technology. Like, here is another article. There it is. China's building 2/3 of the world's wind and solar projects. Country on track to reach 1,200 gigawatts of installed wind and solar capacity by end of 2024, 6 years ahead of Beijing's target. Okay? Almost 2/3 of global wind and solar projects under construction are in China. Solar and wind power projects under construction by gigawatts. Okay? So yeah, they are massively ahead. And not only that, but they're now doing this insane thing that I saw that's like, that literally feels like it just feels like something out of Cyberpunk. World's most powerful flying wind turbine launched in Western China. This is a gigantic gliding power bank that could help communities cut off from the grid during blackouts and cement China's leading role in green energy. I don't know how safe this is. When I see Zeppelins, I get fearful, but that is what they are doing. The world's first megawatt-class high-altitude wind power system for urban use, the S2000 SAWES, has successfully completed a test flight in Yibin, southwest China's Sichuan province on January 5th. After a 30-minute ascent to 2,000 meters, it generated 385 kilowatt hours of electricity and completed grid-connected power generation. 1 hour of operation can generate enough electricity to fully... What are you doing? What's happening over there? You want to go outside? Hold on. You don't mind dogs, right? He's very friendly. Hey, sit. Okay. Oh, damn, she's not even going to you. I don't know where she's going. I don't know either. She's going back to Okay. No, don't let her out. No, she's I think she wants to know what they're doing on the router back there. Anyway, here it is. This is what it looks like. It's fucking insane. Okay. 1 hour operation can generate enough electricity to fully charge approximately 30 top spec electric vehicles from zero. It's meant to be rapidly deployed to natural disasters to restore areas basic power. Yeah. Like, when I look at this stuff, I understand how people must have felt when, you know, I understand how the horse, buggy, and carriage industry must have felt when, like, cars were being mass produced, right? The assembly line kicks in, there's cars, it's becoming increasingly cheaper or more affordable to own a car. And while that is happening, this new frontier is unfolding in front of your eyes, you're still maintaining the old guard where you're like, no, you don't understand. This is a profitable industry. Horses are much better. Horses are much better than fucking cars, dude. You're so dumb. Don't move into the car stuff. What do you mean an automobile? It's a dangerous thing. It's scary. It's weird. Horses are much less likely to trample you to death. It's just a fad. It'll go away. Let's just focus on horses. And it's interesting because, like, we are connected to one another more than ever before with the internet, and yet we still have this kind of mentality. And I don't understand it. Like, there's no excuse for it, you know? There is no excuse for it because we know exactly what it looks like. We know that it's better. And in the age of the internet, when you see this kind of idiotic sentiment being expressed by world leaders that are effectively telling everyone, you know, shut the fuck up, close your eyes, plug your ears, don't listen to reason, don't look over there, just focus on what we have right now over and over again. It just, you know, it's very, very frustrating. And yet the market doesn't fucking react in the way that it's supposed to because there is no fucking rhyme or reason for how the market operates. Here is Howard Butlick saying the quiet part out loud once again.
It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flag.
I didn't even realize he had such a major lisp, by the way.
Pole in the middle. But
from licking Trump's butt so hard, his tongue can't even produce the S sounds any longer.
In fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar. You should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries. Why would you do that? Why would the United States of America, which has oil and natural gas, try to convert to all electricity? China does not have oil and natural gas. Electricity and electric.
Oh, he was saying WEF, World Economic Forum. I thought he was saying the West.
Cars make perfect sense to them. That is practical and logical.
Yeah, that's it. It's not a lisp. He's saying the WEF, as in the World Economic Forum. I've never heard someone say the WEF. Yeah. But look at Davos. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they're deciding to be subservient to China. Now, it's really funny to see, like, the reaction from the panelists, just looking at him with tremendous dismay, looking at him horrified, disgusted, okay? And the irony here, of course, is they're saying you should be servile to us, not China, okay? And it goes back to the same principle that I've been talking about over and over again. America literally keeps repeating, it's either my way or the highway. We're not going to manufacture products that you want. We are going to create a protection racket like NATO, and we're going to sell you all these weapons, and we're going to demand that you take an increasingly larger percentage of your GDP and refund it. Take an increasingly larger percentage of your GDP and purchase more of our weapons, right? You can do with those weapons whatever you want. You can give it to Ukraine if you want. You can use it personally if you want, but like you're going to take our weapons. because that's one of the only fucking industries that we have in the country. Another industry that we have in the country is the automotive industry, right? We make automobiles. But the problem is we're not making automobiles for the European market. We're not making automobiles for any other country other than the United States of America. And in the United States of America, we're making those cars ginormous. We're making those vehicles as large as we physically possibly can make them. We're making them gas guzzlers. And these are cars that are so large, both by engine size, both by, just like size-wise, they're just too big for the fucking European roads that like Europeans can't even purchase these cars and use them on their fucking streets. And it doesn't matter. We're forcing that on you. If Donald Trump's major goal here is to fix the trade deficit, right, and improve the American automobile manufacturing, there's two ways out of it. You can either make cost-effective, competitive products that people actually want to purchase in the same way that China has done, or you are by force purchasing these vehicles. I don't give a shit what you do with the fleets. I don't give a shit if you actually sell it on your roads or not. You just need to buy it from us, right? So that's it. That's what we're doing here with the energy situation as well. We keep telling Europe over and over again, no, you don't understand. Do not move in the renewable sector, because every move that you make, every initiative that you take that is focusing on renewables, improving your electricity grid, trying to make sure that your electricity grid is powered by renewable energies is actually beneficial to China. You must keep petrodollar on top, even if it's fucking killing you, even if it's killing the planet. It doesn't matter. That is woke and gay. Do not actually move towards renewables. What is this? There is no replacement for displacement. Davos building evacuated? Well, I don't know where that, I don't know what's going on there, but I'm actually going to have my guest here in a brief moment, and we're going to be talking to his MAGA parents from the Necessary Conversation pod. And, we'll be doing that for the next hour, and then I'll be going back to Davos. And as a matter of fact, I'll be asking his MAGA parents about Davos as well. How do you feel about base tanky Macron? None of those guys are based, nor are they real tankies. They're just saying the quiet part out loud, but they're not going to do shit about it, as evidenced by the fact that Donald Trump turned around and said, oh, I fixed it. And now everyone is saying, yeah, it's fixed. Oh my God, I just saw the way that this motherfucker is standing on this podium. Oh my God, this angle is not very favorable. This angle is not good at all for him, it seems. The stuff that I wanted to get to was obviously like the windmill stuff that he talked about with respect to China, and how stupid that was, and how, you need to be more kind to us, that type of shit. And ever since then, there's already been some wheeling and dealing in Davos, where it seems to me like breaking under Greenland deal, Denmark would give the United States sovereignty over small pockets of Greenlandic land where the United States could build military bases, according to the three senior officials familiar with the discussion. The announcement followed a NATO meeting on Wednesday where top military officers from the alliance's member states discussed a compromise in which Denmark could give the United States sovereignty over small pockets of Greenlandic land where the United States could build military bases, according to three senior officials familiar with the discussion. The reason why they want the reason why America wants to have complete control over Greenland, or whatever territory that they will occupy in Greenland, and I don't know what this deal is going to look like, okay, is I suspect because they want to put advanced missile bases, and understandably, no one would fucking want to do that, because that puts them, that compromises their security. This was the original reason as to why France didn't want to join NATO and actually pulled out of NATO at certain points, because you have no sovereignty, right? You have no sovereignty whatsoever. And Greenland especially doesn't have any sovereignty, because Greenland is now being sold off, like pieces of Greenland is now being sold off to the United States of America by way of Denmark potentially. And it's not even about Denmark. It's literally about what NATO wants, and what NATO wants is what America wants. We shall see how this works. We shall see if this is actually a deal that they will say yes to. Okay? But the reality of the matter is there is no such thing as like an international rule-based order. It's whatever America says goes. And I think instances like this prove that reality. Even the fact that there is this like managed, negotiated colonial extraction that's taking place in front of our eyes is another example of that. Like, what do you mean you want pieces of this territory for you and then you get to have it because otherwise you'll throw a fit? And that's the reason why Mark Carney said that this liberal international order was a lie that they actually played along with because it was a lie that they thought was beneficial for them. Now, when I say that, I'm a fucking tanky. I'm anti-American. I'm anti-this. I'm stupid. I'm silly. I'm a third worldist. All these different things. Well, it turns out that's just the truth. Now liberals are saying it. The official spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive diplomatic matter, and they said the idea was one Mr. Rutte had been pursuing, the number one dick sucker of Donald Trump. God, what a fucking shameless, servile little worm he is. No respect for fucking Rutte. Okay? And they said the idea was one Mr. Rutte had been pursuing. Two of the officials who attended the meeting compared it to the United Kingdom's bases in Cyprus, which are regarded as British territory. The officials did not know if the idea was part of the framework announced by Mr. Trump. Asked for a comment about the deal in its context, NATO said in a statement that negotiations between Denmark, Greenland, and the United States will go forward aimed at ensuring that Russia and China never gain a foothold economically or militarily in Greenland. I hope this is a wake-up call for Europeans. You have no sovereignty. Okay?
The people in California, we want to have no crime. I know Gavin was here. I used to get along so great with Gavin when I was president. Gavin's a good guy. And we're going to, if he needed it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd love to see, we did help them a lot in Los Angeles, a lot with the early in my term when they had some problems. But we would love to do it. I would say this, if I were a Democrat governor or whatever, I would call up Trump. I'd say, come on in.
It was remarkably boring. It was remarkably insignificant. Even by Trump standards, I was rather curious. And there was boorish parts of it, but those were not even that consequential, including name-checking people he likes, people he didn't like. So, I was a little disappointed. It was a little nonplussed.
Still now on that breaking news, I've just...
Rutte gave an interview and is telling...
Did you ever think...
Defend Greenland? No. Stand up to Washington? No. Bootlick Donald Trump? Yes. Here is Mark Rutte, head of NATO, a.k.a. Daddy Trump. Mr. Daddy Trump, the guy who called Trump Daddy. Shameless.
That you would ever see one NATO member threaten the territorial integrity of another? I mean, you have now the Prime Minister of Greenland telling his public an attack cannot be ruled out.
Listen, my role as NATO Secretary-General when there is tension within the alliance. It has been there in the past between Greece and Turkey. There have been other moments when there was tension. Then my predecessors always took the view that they should not comment on that in public. That's impossible. That's why you will not hear me comment. You can be assured that I'm working on this issue behind the scenes, but I cannot do that in public. Sorry.
Yeah, because it would be, they would take the broadcast off the airwaves if he even showed what kind of fellatio he engaged in. You see, the type of dick sucking that I was engaging in is something that is an ancient technique. One finger in the butthole, one hand firmly clasped against the testicular torsion, with my mouth and tongue going up and down. This is how I gave myself and my face to Mr. Daddy. If I were to do this on camera, show you how I tickle disdain, this would not be wise. Dude, is Europe that's allowed? Your Dutch accent sucks, Hasan. I can't even dignify him with a fucking appropriate accent. I'm sorry.
No comments from me on Greenland.
Well, sometimes behind the scenes comments do become public in various ways, as we've seen in the past few days.
That's true. The US is by far the most powerful nation on earth. And the President of the United States is therefore the leader of the free world. So again, I'm not popular with you now because I'm defending Donald Trump. But I really believe we can be happy that he is there because he has forced us in Europe to step up, to face the consequences that...
God, he is so nasty. He is so nasty. Yo, Europeans, this your guy? This is the guy? I mean, he's perfect for fucking NATO General Secretary, by the way, because, like, he is gawking like crazy, brother. Oh, my Lord. Lordy Lord. This is worse than when Sean Hannity sucks Trump raw. I've never seen... I was wrong. I thought Sean Hannity was an Olympic-level dick sucker. Okay? I was wrong. Sean Hannity's not even in the fucking major leagues. Okay? This man is an Olympic dick eater. Oh, my God. Please stop. I don't recall you got Trump for president. Yeah, but this is fucking shameless, dude. This is like, I mean, this is, you're not a human being at this point. You know what I mean? You're something different. You've become a gawk 3000 machine. Like, you're just doing a suck job. That's all you're capable of doing. That's your entire output. That is mind-boggling, bro. He is less than a fleshlight. He has become more cum than man.
We have to take care more of our own defense. I'm absolutely convinced. Without Donald Trump,
I'm being so for real. If Donald Trump said, "I'm gonna make you eat my shit from the butt," Mark Rutte would say, "Can I have seconds, please?" Like, this is ridiculous.
we would not have taken those decisions, and they are crucial, particularly for the European and the Canadian side of NATO, to really grow up in the post-Cold War world.
Did you?
No backbone, no dignity, no sovereignty. Oh my Lord, that is fucking crazy. Do you read anything, you blind ass mofo? You only read hate? Thank you for the great streams lately, brother. Love the stream and seeing you with Arky. Hell yeah, just your average dude. Nothing, dude. This guy is not even a human being. He is a spineless, gelatinous thing. Barely
stated,
sentient.
which is that Donald Trump is not going, apparently, to impose these tariffs now from the 1st of February. Mark, the US president's decided to seemingly de-escalate everything.
You guys understand what the problem here is, right? We are all at the mercy of one madman, one tyrant. Okay? If you don't apply pressure, you're basically waiting for his next moment where he decides, like, I'm taking Norway, you know? What are you going to do about it? Like, that's it. That's the issue. That's the issue with not having sovereignty. Europe threatened to sell the treasury bonds and Trump flopped instantly when the markets tanked. It doesn't matter. They're still giving him a fucking sweetheart deal here. There should be no sweetheart deal. They should be like, fuck off. You already have NATO. You want to build the bases? You build the bases. You don't get to have Greenland land, okay? You don't get to have sovereignty over another nation's people.
Remarkable U-turn by the US president 4 or 5 minutes ago on Truth Social. I don't know if you've got it there to bring up, but I can certainly read it to you. He says, based on a very productive meeting.
I hope this was a wake-up call for liberal European leaders. I don't think it is. I think they just said, oh, we're going to sell the treasury bonds or whatever. And maybe that was enough for Trump to at least back away from taking Greenland in its entirety or something, at least for the time being, because this isn't over. If you know something about Donald Trump, guys, if you have learned something about Donald Trump, let this be the only lesson. It's not fucking over until he gets exactly what he wants. Okay? He's petty, he's vindictive, and he will sometimes behave in an inconsistent manner. Appeasement doesn't work with Donald Trump. He only responds to force. Here, I'll give you an example. China, okay? Out of all the countries that engaged in trade negotiations with Donald Trump post-Liberation Day, what did I fucking tell you? What did I tell you? I told you China is going to show the world that they represent stability at a time when America represents instability. Okay? And that's precisely what China did. And then I told you that China was going to turn around and offer like a fig leaf, right? An olive branch to make it seem like they were actually conceding to Donald Trump. And because they hit the nuclear option on trade, saying that they were not going to get any of the fucking rare earth minerals that were being procured in China, and even negotiated with export controls coming out of China for, materials that you need for virtually everything, including but not limited to, electronic equipment, but materials that you need for national security. Donald Trump backed away. That's how you have to deal with bullies. He went from like 500% tariffs to like, marginal tariffs as opposed to where he was at. Europe should have learned 2 key lessons from that. Number 1, you cannot appease bullies, okay? They will fuck you over every single time. And number 2, Donald Trump and the American liberal rule-based order does not represent stability any longer, and that as long as you are devoid of sovereignty, they can come in and take whatever the fuck they want.
I've had with the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, we have
Can you explain to me how he gets what he wants? Like, it's so annoying. I don't know what we can fucking do anymore too. Like, yeah, I can see NATO Secretary or whatever being right. Europe needs to be sovereign, but like, who can stop Trump? Dems are useless right now. Reps are just annoying, and it seems the world bends the knee. Yes, because America is the hegemonic power. This is why, more often than not, when we're talking about things that are happening over there, when we talk about things that are happening overseas, elsewhere, and I bring up America, people go, why are you saying America's involved in this? And then I fucking describe exactly how America is involved in it. People act as though this is some grand conspiracy theory. It's not. America is the most powerful nation on the planet. It's the only country on the planet that has at least historically been able to dominate the entire globe. It can go anywhere on the planet in a matter of 24 fucking hours or at least a week. It has 800 military bases around the planet that we know of. It's the real number is in the thousands, of course. But this is the new version of colonialism. This is how America has operated. This is the real design of the post-World War II global world order, and especially so after the Cold War ended. The only way that you can actually put a dent in that power, is to make it as costly as possible. And that is when European allies realize that this liberal world order is no longer as beneficial as they previously thought it was, and they choose to lean into other great powers around the world. Great powers that they can lean into in order to leverage their relationship. If India can do it, how the fuck can you not do it if you're, Europe? That's what India does. That's what many of these other countries do. Many of these other countries that have been fucked over have been forced into that position of leverage, have been forced into that position of getting better deals from China because they had no other options. Europe thought it's fine. We're a part of the process. We're in the imperial core, and America will do right by us. And now they're learning that lesson slowly. They're learning that lesson the hard way. These great powers only respond to force.
The framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all nations. Based on this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February the 1st. He goes on to say additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. And he concludes, J.D. Vance, the Vice President, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and various others, as needed, will be responsible for the negotiations. So he is framing it as some sort of a breakthrough, and that discussions have taken place, which means that
It's been said that the problem Europe had with Nazi Germany wasn't what they were doing, it's who they were doing it to. Yes, Amy Cesar. I retweeted someone actually quoting Amy Cesar before last night. That's precisely what it is. That is precisely the problem. Here's the quote. Hold on, let me find it. What he, the European bourgeois, cannot forgive Hitler for is not the crime in itself, the crime against man. It is not the humiliation of man as such. It is the crime against the white man, the humiliation of the white man, and the fact that he applied to Europe colonialist procedures, which until then had been reserved exclusively for the Arabs of Algeria, I don't know if this is an appropriate word for me to say, of India, and the blacks of Africa. Okay? That's it. It's because Hitler tried to colonize Europe. Okay? That was the problem. That's it. And now, America's doing the same. I mean, America's been doing the same, but at least they were doing it in an inoffensive way. Okay? They've been doing the same through the Marshall Plan, through NATO, in the Cold War posture that we had. America leaned into the capitalists of the European continent by saying, look, we're the only game in town that can fight against the scary communists. Okay? And European capitalists said, yes, I love this bargain. And they elected European liberals to defend this system, to defend this process. And as long as America never turned around and said, you're our fucking dog, as long as America allowed Europe to keep its colonies, as long as America maintained the same global capitalist system that it was safeguarding, as long as that was the case, Europe was like, we're fine with some of the imperial super profits that we get to receive off of the backs of Africa, off of the backs of the Arabs in the MENA region. It's all good. This is the issue. This is the issue all around the world. And Donald Trump turned around and gave the game away because he's a brute. Okay? Because in some ways, he's more honest about where the future of this world is going. Okay? That's the other side of the story that is often not talked about. Donald Trump is more honest about where things are going because he recognizes something that is very important. Although he's a stupid person, he's a decent room reader, but he also at least has some people around him that are advising him that the world is moving in a very different direction. The other quote I used was Gramsci's. Okay? The old world is dying, and the new world is struggling to build itself from the ashes. This is now a time for monsters. Donald Trump is that monster. Donald Trump is recognizing that liberalism has failed, and it is now once again time for fascism. Okay? That's it. That's it. That's what he's doing. He's doing straightforward barbarism. There is no solution out of this. Going back to the same liberal process, going back to the same liberal order is not going to even buy you time. Okay? And it's only been a 100-year cycle at this point. Liberalism failed 100 years ago, and fascism took root. But at that time, At that time, at least there was a force, an anti-fascist force out there, an anti-fascist allegiance out there that was able to fight back. And fight back it did, and succeed in destroying the fascist scourge. I'm not so sure where that counterbalance is right now in the world. I'm not so certain that it will be China. Ideologically, it should be China. But there is no USSR. There's no USSR, and there's no FDR in the United States of America. As a matter of fact, America is doing the Fourth Reich. A big part of right-wing ideology today is anti-communism without communism, flailing around looking for a replacement Soviet boogeyman in the Western left or third worldism. The through line is horror at the inferiors rising up against their superiors. But since the Soviet Union is dead and Islamism is in retreat, they have to make up an enemy. Yeah.
That Europe and Greenland and Denmark have met his demands, and therefore the tariff threat has gone away. I think the reality probably is that from face-to-face discussions, not least with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, of course, with whom Donald Trump has a very good relationship. He's the guy that called Trump daddy a few months ago. Following those discussions, a de-escalation has taken place, and it has placed things precisely where Denmark wanted them to be last week. Remember, it was the Danish foreign minister that came here to Washington and went away saying that he had secured, so he thought then, agreement for a working group, as he described it, to work through the Greenland issue. Well, that is now precisely what Donald Trump...
China isn't white like the USSR, so they will never be accepted by the West. Brother, what are you talking about? The USSR was white as fuck, and it was never accepted by the West. I think you misunderstand something here. I'm gonna go so far as to say the Chinese method of socialism with Chinese characteristics that looks quite a bit like wearing capitalism as a sleeve is actually infinitely more beneficial for European partners than the USSR ever could be. Because the USSR, for all of its faults and failures, was unironically a bulwark of communism. Okay? That's it. Europe would and has historically shown more favor to China now than it ever did to the USSR. By its closeness to the USSR, by the real fears that it had about like Soviet incursion, but also because of the ideological fears that it represented. China makes the treats for the entire planet. Many people are already tied to China, whether they want to admit it or not, in a way that they never were to the USSR. If anything, if the USSR was a major producer for the rest of the globe in the same way that China was, it probably would not have fucking fallen apart. Now, I'm not so certain as to how they would be able to do both. Interventionism everywhere while simultaneously, and good, by the way, those interventions weren't bad. Well, there were some bad ones, but I'm not talking about Afghanistan. But helping Cuba and offering aid to anti-colonial initiatives in Africa, like these were good things, right? China's not doing any of those good things. She's not doing it at all. Korea, Vietnam, yes, these are incredible things that the USSR did. Okay? And they would not, like, these countries would not exist in the way that they do currently. They would not have had any shred of sovereignty if it wasn't for the USSR in its aid. And at the time, even China was, helping out as well, like in Korea, for example. And then maybe it helped out America in other instances as well, in a way to drive in a way to make it seem like they were presenting an alternative to the Soviets that were the real enemy at the time, that were the major enemy at the time.
Has agreed to a working group which will include J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, and others.
And what USSR has done to its own people, that was disaster. Nothing has been more disastrous to the people that lived under the Soviets than the dissolution of the USSR. Like pound for pound, even with all the famines, even with all the mismanagement, even with all like Stalin's unique paranoia, and all the fucking camps or people being sent to Siberia or whatever the fuck, nothing comes close to the end of the USSR. The dissolution of the USSR was infinitely more damaging. It's true. I mean, objectively, it's true. You can look at the fucking lifespan, or you can look at like life expectancy, child prostitution, and numerous things that came about in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR. You're flip-flopping. You said the European countries somewhat accepted socialism because of the USSR. That's why I'm saying that China will never be accepted because they're not white. What? No, the European countries were fearful of the threat of a good example from the USSR, which is why they allowed certain social safety nets to continue. You're saying that they don't feel the threat of a good example from China because, they're Chinese. I don't agree. I think the reason why they don't fear China as much as they feared the USSR is because China plays ball. China is openly non-interventionist. This allows China to commit to their own development. But if China was as interventionist, or if China was as readily available in offering aid to countries that want sovereignty, that want to fucking engage in like anti-imperialist endeavors, then they would probably see it. Are you asking who will be hegemon in a world with unprecedented mass migration? I don't understand how people remain this ignorant on climate physics. I mean, I'm not saying that there is going to be a hegemon. I think that countries are going to do what America's doing. They're going to fucking draw up their borders and put moats all around the fucking nation state and start lasering motherfuckers. And America is gearing up for that world.
And that they will discuss how the Golden Dome, which is a missile defense system that Donald Trump wants to build, can be installed into Greenland for the security of the Western.
So when Putin said the fall of the USSR was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century, you agree with that statement? Yes, because it's an objectively true statement. If Vladimir Putin said water is necessary for survival, I would also agree with that. It's just a thing that is correct. It's just objectively correct. Yes, this is something that I believe. This is something that you should believe as well if you have fucking eyes to see the world that we live in right now. Of course I believe that. It's why a lot of people fucking yelled at me. They were like, how dare you say that, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe it. Yes. How is this not windy levels of folding right now? Wait, what?
Hemisphere. And interestingly, just looking back at this, at no point in this message, in this Truth Social post, does Donald Trump mention anything about America taking
sure, if you're a Holodomor denialist,
or sovereignty of Greenland.
No, even with like the most base boosted version of like all of the fucking struggles, because like, listen, what a lot of people fail to recognize is collectivization, both in China and also in the USSR, was incredibly painful. Okay, it was an incredibly painful process. No one is disagreeing with that. It happened virtually in a matter of fucking decades, as opposed to the 400 years of colonial bounty that the Western world was able to fucking eat off of. Okay, we enslaved human beings in the Western world. You understand that, right? Like, human beings were enslaved, and their children were enslaved. How do you think industrialization took place in the Western world? How do you think it got to the fucking point that it got to? It's insane that you're making a comparison between these two when one happened over the process of like fucking a couple decades. The other happened over 400 years. Okay? Yes. Oh, this is tedious. Why do we have to relitigate the 1930s? It's just stupid. It's a stupid thing that fucking liberal capitalists tell themselves, to be like, we were not like that at all. Because when it's your crime, you actually have the capacity to understand it, okay? When it's the crime of your enemies, then it's the worst crime of all time. It's ridiculous. If you have a consistent position on this, then you wouldn't engage in this idiotic back and forth. You would understand.
A U-turn for sure.
Yeah, the West industrialized on slavery, genocide, and violent primitive accumulation. But you know, of course, it's the same principle behind like China spraying water on Filipino fishermen. Okay, that's the greatest crime that robs people of their sovereignty. Meanwhile, we're letting Israel dump lead and five nuclear arms worth of fucking munitions on Gaza on this tiny strip of land. And that's like, you know, it happens. It's really fucked up. But two things can be bad at the same time. Okay, well, those two things are not even in the same fucking zip code. Our enemies and our adversaries are never capable of good. They're only capable of wrong. They do the wrong thing. They do it so much. And it's far worse a crime against humanity when they do it than all the metric ton of violence we contribute to on a daily fucking basis.
Yeah, go on, Darren. That's what I find really interesting, Mark, is that not only does it seem a U-turn on tariffs, and following that conversation with Mark Rutte, he does seem to have, in this one Truth Social, seem to have moved away entirely from a sense that he wants to own Greenland. Quite something.
Yeah, no mention of... yeah, absolutely. No mention of it at all. And so a massive relief, I would think, for certainly for the people of Greenland, for Denmark. But he does want some military apparatus in Greenland.
Yeah, this is also true. If there was no Cold War, Trump's America would have manifested a lot earlier. The Cold War forced America to put on a Sunday best over several decades. In the absence of a major ideological rival like the Soviet Union, there's no longer a need to pretend. Okay? That's a big part of this, too. That's why a lot of the people that you would see at those civil rights movement protests, the counter-protesters, would be like, you guys are commies. You guys are filthy commies. They would say they were the N-words, too. But they would also say, like, this is communism. Equality is communism. Things that we have obviously whitewashed and laundered the reputation of now to make it seem like America always was, on a path towards liberty and prosperity for all people. Okay? At the time, it wasn't seen as that. At the time, the same exact fucking forces, the same exact dumb fucks that are calling me a filthy commie, an un-American commie, a hater of mankind, a hater of prosperity, were saying the same thing to others who were saying the same thing adjusted to the fucking timeline. One example that I think most people would even agree to it in this day and age is the space race. Without the USSR, America's not going to the fucking moon, and all the technological bounties that came as a consequence of that would not have happened, okay? Think about the material advancements in the form of expansive social safety nets in Europe in a similar vein. That's how it works. And I guess the reason why America doesn't give a shit about the tech victories that are coming from China now, by the way, notice how there's another communist country that is achieving what we can't. For some weird reason, it's always these filthy commies that just dial in and work on whatever they want to fucking work on, and then we're following along and we're trying to show our might. We've given up on that, by the way. We've completely given up on that now. We've given up on competing against China in R&D. We've given up on competing with China when it comes to education, educating our own population. We've completely given up on competing with China in the new pioneer, the new renewable energy future that they will dominate. And we're just fucking throwing a fit, deciding to be more violent than we have before, deciding to force our allies in the imperial core to pay more. Anyway. And here we are, sorry.
Of course, he could have always had in the first place, because that is that is under the 1951 treaty that Denmark has with the United States. So there we go. Absolutely extraordinary U-turn. But, Donald Trump is a man, we've seen this movie before, haven't we, that changed tack quite quickly. So that will always be on everyone's mind. But for now, as of this morning, the threat of military action, which he had implicitly put on the table, has gone. And as of this afternoon, so too have the tariffs and the desire to take ownership of Greenland. What a palaver.
Indeed, and it certainly leans into the sense that Trump reacts to the last person he spoke to in the room. Just very briefly, Mark, very briefly if you can, do you think domestic pressures come to bear here? I mean, amongst particularly Republican Congress people and maybe even the American public?
You said to be very brief, 100%. This was not a popular thing here in the United States among Democrats or Republicans.
Mr. President, how did you do the deal? Come and tell us how you did the deal, sir.
It's a good deal, fair deal for everybody. I think it's a very good deal.
Are the tariffs off the table completely now, sir? Can the people of the UK rest assured the deal's gone?
Based on the fact that it looks like we have the concept of a deal.
Donald Trump came to Davos threatening to claim Greenland by any means necessary. 7 hours after he arrived, he claimed to have struck a deal.
When I have conversations about this with my right-wing family members, they bring up how like China has billionaires, whatever that means. But what would you say as a response to that? So I'm armed up? Be like, yeah, great, okay. They even have billionaires. Why don't we do what China's doing, but here in America? Because like economic systems are economic systems. It has nothing to do with being woke, or it has nothing to do with like repression or freedom of speech. Just copy paste the Chinese structure to the United States of America. Then there you go. They have billionaires. Great. You love your billionaires. You can keep them. How about that?
Over the future.
It's always the same. You can say like it's the same with fucking Norway. You know what I mean? Okay, you like their economic system. Their economic system is capitalist. It's capitalist. Okay, let's do Norway. They go, no, why not? They were able to do it. You know? Like, why not? Why not? And then they just go on a tangent about how, like, we have too many fucking, we have too much diversity or something. Okay? It's so stupid. It's ridiculous.
Of the territory, taking tariffs and military action off the table.
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
After a false start in Washington, the president descended into Davos late, heightening anticipation for a speech that had European allies hanging on every word. He began with a familiar takedown of the continent and its economies.
Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way, in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good. But it's not heading in the right direction.
And on Greenland, he restated...
Look at the way he's standing, dude. Looks like he's shitting in his diapers.
...his claim, but removed the threat of military action.
I'm seeking immediate negotiation.
They use it as an argument because they think all I want is life with no billionaires, not actually just prosperity. I don't give a fuck if there's that level of wealth disparity, as long as people are doing all right. As long as we are moving in the positive direction, okay? As long as there's not homelessness. I mean, there are still issues in China as well that remain. But like moving in the positive direction, putting the American future in the appropriate trajectory is what I want to do.
To once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have.
His posture is bottom-coded.
Unless I decide
Christ.
to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. They have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative. Or you can say no, and we will remember.
There was
like that's a threat. I know that everybody was like, "Oh, he's like backing off the tariffs and all this shit." It's like, no, man, he never really stopped threatening Europe. Okay, he didn't stop it at all. It was pretty open. It's a pretty open threat. It's as open as it can be.
Criticism too of the UK and its energy policy. The president telling Sky News they were simply home truths.
Very disrespectful of Europe and the UK, sir. Why?
No, I'm not, but they have to change their ways.
His foremost American critic may have seen the climb down coming.
You think you saw him back off?
You're going to continue to have to do, he removed the one card that we knew was never real in the first place.
Europeans, meanwhile, were hoping for dialogue rather than another lecture.
What is your message to him?
My message to him is it's time to calm down and find a way forward to work on natural resources together.
Even Trump's energy secretary may have been surprised.
I did Gavin Newsom, man. Gavin fucking Newsom. Big Gav. Gavy Daddy. He really has I mean, he has a lot of fucking ambitions.
Is by the speed of the deal.
The key thing for the president, this is very long term. He's trying to get to the right place that's a win for America and win for our allies abroad. I don't know the time frame. The right result is the most important thing.
Why the change of heart on tariffs, Mr. Lutnick?
The truth.
Can you explain why you've climbed down?
And wait until the president got here. You all jumped the gun.
Once it came, senior administration officials were jubilant. A day really is a long time in Davos.
I was just really surprised at the views that you're so anti-Trump. It's incredible and very anti-America. We have to be very careful as
This is a man who's just
nation.
threatened us with a trade war, and you find it surprising that we're angry.
We have a trade agreement with America.
It just looks like it's being torn up.
It's been torn up.
Donald Trump is talking about 10 Donald Trump is talking about imposing further 10 to 25% tariffs on the UK and all nations that are sending troops to Greenland.
Well, that's because he wants Greenland. It's his way of negotiating.
It's not his country. It's part of the Denmark. It's part of the European Union.
Trump wants to have an agreement with Greenland so that it's vital for our security as well as America's security.
Right, so Trump wants an agreement with Greenland, but said last week he wanted to invade.
He wants an agreement with Greenland.
He said he wanted to invade.
He wants to initiate a conversation so that he has more control.
And do you initiate a conversation by threatening invasion, Sarah? Is that the best way to do politics in the 21st century?
No, but people aren't perfect, and everybody knows that Trump is rather
Sarah,
narcissistic.
I've heard some apologists before in my time, but honestly, your starting point of you don't understand why people are so angry, I think it is risible, quite frankly.
How is this British woman so cucked? Right wing. That's it. Being a right winger should be seen as conceding to power no matter who it is, no matter what the outcome is. Okay, that's what it is. Right wingers at the domestic front will look at police or look at ICE agents like fucking shooting people and go, no, that brutalization is appropriate. You should have played ball. You comply or die. Right wingers in the same exact way will say America dominating us is objectively good. That's what it is. It's just like the mentality that right wingers have. They don't care. They think if someone is powerful, they deserve it. They've reached that level of power and prominence because they are worthy. Okay? It almost is religious in the way that they approach this stuff. I feel like I'm sure like peasants, time adjusted to the medieval times that thought like, my lordship is someone I should blindly be loyal to, someone I should serve unconditionally, would be considered right wing. And those who demanded freedom from these uniquely cruel, well, it's not even that unique actually, from this cruel system of power and dominion, someone who fought for that would be considered left wing.
Greenland belonged to Denmark, which did also have colonies and stuff. So I think it's only a comeuppance in a way. I hate to say that. I'm not being too critical, but it's just they deserve it.
And what about himself, Trump himself? How do you describe him?
You know what, Sheila? I honestly believe he's a product of this sense of Western superiority, that they always take the moral high ground. They always gone about the axis of evil, Korea and Iran and so North Korea. I personally, from a developing nation, I sometimes think the axis of evil is America, Britain, and the Western nations have condoned so many terrible things. So
it's well, maybe go and live in North Korea and Iran and then call again after a year and tell me whether you still feel the same.
Nah, bro, even medieval peasants have more backbone. Yeah, except you have to remember, the medieval peasants that actually revolted weren't the right-wing ones. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm sure there were plenty who would like give the game away or tell the lordship that the peasants were slated for an uprising or something, you know? Also, the system of control, and I tweeted about this last night, but under theocratic monarchies, the theocratic monarchs justified their rulership on the lie of being ordained by God to rule over man. The capitalist oligarch uses the lie of meritocracy under the current design to rule over you. No different than a king. That's how it is. It's the same fucking structure. Like the power sharing is almost identical. You got kings, you got a king's court, you got like lords, right? That lord over the land, and then you have the peasants. The peasants had the commons, were more cucked. I mean, sure, they also had freedom of travel, but they have freedom of movement, a lot better freedom of movement than we do nowadays in terms of like how restrictive travel is through nation state boundaries. But the point is, yeah, borders were a little fuzzy back then. Exactly. The point is, like, all of the technological bounty that has come have created more mechanisms of control, much higher mechanisms of control, much more stringent mechanisms of control than the ones that peasants had to deal with as well. But as far as like taking a top-down approach, as far as looking at this from the outside, like if an alien were to come on planet Earth during the medieval ages, they would have seen the exact same thing that they're seeing now. You know what I mean? If an alien were to come down to Earth during the medieval times and saw a system of power, like a system of divvying up power in the hands of kings that were telling everybody that they deserved to be in control because God told them, and that they had their own lords, and you know most of the power was most of the power remained in the hands of the very few, right? Versus if they came back in 2026 and saw the new process that we had where power, once again, was in the hands of the very few, okay? And instead of being ordained by God, they would actually received this level of awesome power through, meritocracy. They worked hard. They worked smart. They would look at it and go, this is exactly the same thing. I guess there are differences as far as like the way that the peasants saw themselves. They saw themselves as being ruled over, whereas nowadays I think most people, there's probably a higher share of the population that doesn't realize that they're being ruled over. But ultimately it's the same.
So Donald Trump still wants Greenland and is threatening our allies in Europe if they don't go along with the plan, apparently because he's super mad he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. But this story has been brewing for a while, and a few months ago I traveled to Oslo, Norway, to see how Europeans felt about our president and his quest of not peace. Donald Trump getting the Nobel Prize, yes or no?
No.
No.
No. I think there's no way.
When I say Donald Trump Nobel Peace Prize, what is your reaction?
No. Crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Crazy?
A crazy man.
I'm putting you down for a no for the Peace Prize.
Big no. Big no. Big no.
Okay, let me pitch some accomplishments. War on Christmas, no longer happening. You guys know about the War on Christmas?
No.
Exactly, because he's snuffed it
If
out.
the
Nobody's
Democrat-
even talking about it anymore.
I don't think he really deserves much.
Okay, let's move. Deleuze's Societies of Control versus Michel Foucault's Societies of Discipline. The capitalism, free market neoliberalism is Protestant in its origins too. The Protestants' big thing was hard work will make you rich and get you into heaven. And the U.S. is the Protestant nation. Yes. And the worst manifestation of Protestantism in the United States of America, which is like the prosperity gospel, where they think like they flip that concept on its head. That's a up down. That's a bottom up approach. Like, oh, if you work hard, you can get to a level of prosperity. Whereas we flipped it on its head, and now we believe, unironically, and many people genuinely believe this, even if they don't fucking say it out loud, that if you are wealthy, that means you actually are a good person. If you are wealthy, You've done good things. You're a moral person. The wealthier you are, the more moral you are. If you're not wealthy, if you're poor, then you are immoral. It's crazy. Poverty is associated with immorality, as though you actually deserve your position in society. You didn't work hard enough. It's fucked up. I appreciate your attempt at trying to give those MAGA parents class consciousness. I was crazy. Bobbert literally was like, no, I'm cucked by my bosses, and that's a good thing. Again, I say, when you told Bob you were rich, he was more open-minded to you. Yeah, I think that did work. If only Bob knew how fucking wealthy I am, he would have gotten mad, actually, probably.
Definitely.
Originally envisaged as a small group of world leaders overseeing the
board of
rebuilding.
peace shit. Oh God. News: while Hakeem Jeffries announced he's opposing the DHS ICE funding bill tomorrow, his team is not whipping the vote. Several frontliners are expected to vote yes. There's a difference between personal vote decisions and unifying the caucus. So Hakeem Jeffries is not whipping up support for the fucking ICE bill at all. He's not doing his job because he doesn't care. He does not care one fucking bit about actually making sure that this vote doesn't pass. Fantastic. I hate the fucking Democratic Party so much. It's like they're such clown ass losers, man. What do you say? Anyway, getting back to Mark Rutte, and then we'll do Nick Shitley doing a congressional hearing.
That famous 2%, which we agreed 10 years ago. I asked the room, I said, big countries like Spain and Italy and Belgium and Canada reaching that 2%, would it have ever happened if President Trump would not have been re-elected? No. And then in June in The Hague, we agreed on this 5% defense spending, including the 3.5%.
Do you think he read about your billionaire Turkish father? My billionaire Turkish father. It's very real. This is a real thing.
On core defense, equalizing with the US. Would that ever have happened if President Trump would not have been re-elected as President 47 of the United States?
Oh, God. Fucking dick rider.
Of Gaza. Donald Trump's Board of Peace has since become a more sprawling concept, with invitations sent to dozens of nations. The preamble of its charter also hints at the organization's role as mediator in conflicts around the world.
Do you want your Board of Peace to replace the UN?
Well, it might. I mean, the UN just hasn't been very helpful. I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential.
Trump will be chairman. He alone decides who is allowed to join and can only be replaced in case of voluntary resignation or as a result of incapacity. He will lead an executive board of 7 members, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Trump's special negotiator Steve Witkoff, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. A Gaza executive board will operate under the body. At the bottom of the hierarchy lies the only Palestinian component, the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, tasked with managing day-to-day operations. Countries joining so far include Trump allies Hungary's Viktor Orban and Argentina's Javier Milei, as well as the UAE, Turkey, Egypt and Canada, though with the latter saying they will not pay the $1 billion price tag to become a permanent member. Netanyahu also agreed, despite earlier criticising Turkey and Qatar's inclusion in the Gaza Board Committee.
Turkish soldiers and Qatari soldiers will not be in the Strip. We have a certain disagreement with our friends in the United States regarding the composition of the advisory council that will accompany the processes in Gaza.
Other countries, including France, Norway and Sweden, have ruled out joining over concerns the board would seek to replace the United Nations. China confirmed it has been invited, but said it would defend the international system with the UN at its core. Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, meanwhile, said it would be very hard to be a member of a council alongside Russia. Britain echoed that statement, saying it was concerned that Vladimir Putin had been invited.
That's your concern?
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member. I just want us to speak plainly and lay the facts out what's really happening in this committee. We are 1 week out.
Brother, that's your concern? Your major concern should be Israel is a part of it. Is that not a legitimate concern? It's not the legitimate concern. No Palestinian gets to have a say, but America gets to have a say and Israel gets to have a say. And these dumb fuck Europeans are like, oh, well, Russia's a part of it. No thanks. God, when I see stuff like this, I'm like, yeah, you kind of fucking deserve what's going on with Trump. I mean,
from
honestly.
Bill and Hillary Clinton, who did not show up for their depositions 1 week, and we're already having a markup to hold them in contempt. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has been legally obligated to hand over the full unredacted Epstein files to this committee since August, the same exact subpoena that they are using to hold the Clintons in contempt. And please note that these resolutions are allowing the DOJ to prosecute the Clintons for the exact same things that the DOJ itself is violating. They have handed over 1% of the files and heavily redacted. We are 5 months overdue, Mr. Comer, if you've made no effort to bring in Pam Bondi. So no, the difference is not clear. You have made no effort to demand any answers, to exert any pressure. So with that, Mr. Scheer, I do have an amendment at the desk which would hold Pam Bondi in contempt for noncompliance with the bipartisan subpoena that you issued on August 5th, 2025. I hope that my colleagues will support. I yield back.
Minority's time's expired. We're still debating the measure, and we'll take up your amendment once we finish debating the initial measure. I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. I agree. We need to hear from Ghislaine Maxwell. We've been trying to get her in for a deposition. Her lawyers have been saying that she's going to plead the 5th, but we have nailed down a date, February 9th, where Ghislaine Maxwell will be deposed by this committee. Now, her lawyers have made it clear that she's going to plead the 5th. I hope she changes her mind because I want to hear from her, just like I want to hear from her. What's that?
You said the difference is clear.
Turn on your mic, Charlie.
It is.
What'd you say?
If the difference is clear, the difference here is that they are also trying to negotiate. She said she doesn't want to do it. You have not moved in the same way. So you are actually not applying the same standard here across the board. The DOJ is in the same exact subpoena. Ghislaine Maxwell says she won't do it. Bring her in then.
You're out of order,
Miss Lee.
You're out of order. So we were going to depose Ghislaine Maxwell, February 9th.
Where are the contempt charges, Mr. Chairman?
You're out of order too, Mr. Garcia. And we will proceed with that deposition. Ms. Lee said the Clintons just missed their deadline by a week. We have been negotiating with the Clinton attorneys for 5 months.
Mr. Chairman,
5 months.
Whose time are we speaking on right now?
This is my time. This is my time.
That's definitely a European chatter. No, I've realized, like, it's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough. I think straight up, I think genuinely Europe is not going to move in any way towards sovereignty. I think, like, the European mind is so fucking servile. I feel really bad for the European HasanAbi heads in the chat. Like, your fucking countrymen on the continent are so locked in, dude. They are so fucking locked in. They just think it's just not going to happen. They're such rapacious bootlickers. At least, like, Turkey is a loyal servant of an empire, of American empire. They're NATO, but they fucking hate NATO and they hate America. You know what I mean? They just have no say in it. Eurolibs unironically take, like, the most insane positions. They'll be like, well, Russia is actually worse than Israel. Russia is just the same as Israel. Like, this is akin to Holocaust denial at this point. But then again, when you think about it, they do that already. It's the same principle behind, well, the USSR was just as bad as the Nazis, if not worse than the Nazis, right? So the anti-communism is so deeply ingrained in the mind of the Eurocuck that they just literally can't think straight.
I recognize myself, so I have 5 minutes.
You already had your 5 minutes.
All right, well, I'm about finished anyway. I haven't used 5 minutes. I've used about 1 minute. But
you used your full 5 minutes, sir.
No, I haven't used the 5 minutes, Mr. Garcia.
Democrats in Minnesota are facing a growing federal scrutiny as the Justice Department investigates whether they conspired to impede ICE operations. ABC News learning Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and 2 counties' attorneys have been served with subpoenas by the DOJ. all Democrats who have publicly spoken out against the Trump administration's crackdown on undocumented immigrants. Border Patrol official Gregory Bavino defending the conduct of agents, saying the, quote, tactics are born of necessity.
They're targeted and they're focused on
You can be anti-Putin. I'm anti-Putin. You can be anti-Putin without saying insane shit. In a situation where they're like, oh, the reason why I'm pulling out of this is because Putin is involved in this, is an insane thing to say. Not for insane for the Ukrainians to say that, mind you. Totally reasonable for Ukrainians to say that. But it's totally unreasonable for the UK to say that. The fuck do you mean? The real reason why you should be pulling out and disparaging this agreement is because Israel is a part of it. It's because no Palestinian is a part of it. The fuck do you mean? The reason why you're mad is because Vladimir Putin is involved. Yeah, if we were talking about colonial rulership over Ukraine and you were like, why does Vladimir Putin get to have a say over what happens with Ukraine? Then yeah, it makes sense. I can't believe that this is the argument that is being presented by European liberals, is like this colonial rulership arrangement that we're creating with Israel and zero Palestinians is bad because fucking Vladimir Putin is involved. Like, okay, you don't have your priorities straight.